We evacuated our home in LA yesterday, running from the fires, but I'm going to give you a rundown of what happened yesterday. So yesterday morning at around 10:53 to 11, we were on PCH between by the Palisades in Malibu, and we saw a huge fog of smoke. I have it in a previous post, and we initially just thought that there was just a random, building burning, and they had probably, gotten control over it. There was hardly any winds in the morning from what I remember. At around 2 p.m. or 2:30, I had just finished a meeting. It was more inland away from the ocean, and I continued to see the smoke fog, but it looked like it was getting bigger and a bit darker. But even at that point, I wasn't, so concerned. I didn't think that the fires were getting that bad, or that they were that bad in Malibu. I decided to, scan around the different neighborhoods, and at around 3:30, the smoke got so bad that it started to cover the sun. At this point, the wind was slowly starting, but once again, I wouldn't say that it was that bad. Even during this time, I think that most people where I was were just, more concerned as to, how bad the smoke was and how it was just very difficult to breathe, breathing in or inhaling smoke. But still at that moment, we were obviously concerned, but I wouldn't say that any of us thought that things were going to take such a major turn in the evening. At around 4:30, I was closer to where the ocean was, and the smoke fog had completely covered the sky, and it was starting to get a bit, horrible, and winds were starting bit by bit. It was dark, but I wouldn't say that it was evening dark. It was more dark because of how bad the smoke fog was. And there were also still people, bike riding and driving. But still at that time, from my perspective, I think that we were all more concerned that are the firefighters able to contain the fire to that one, small area that, we all thought the fires were starting. At around 5:36, that's when wind started to pick up and it started to get really intense. And at this point, I was like, okay, I don't understand what's going on. And I started to get a little worried. I forgot to mention that at 11:25, we got almost like an evacuation notice, but it was more of like a warning of the fires. But even then, I still didn't think that the fires were going to be as bad as what they ended up being last night. So at around 6, 7, wind started to get really, really bad. And I think at this point, that is when I started to worry, and I was very concerned. And that's when we started finding out that the firefighters were really struggling to contain the fires to one area, and it was moving so fast and so rapidly. I think things were moving so fast, like in a matter of, like in a space of an hour, things were literally changing so quickly. At one point, you could not see any of, the fire flames, and then an hour later, you could see the fire flames. It was very scary and traumatizing. I want to add that most of the day it was quite difficult to breathe because of the smoke fog, and just inhaling, smoke. It was really difficult. At some point, I almost felt like throwing up, but I just kept telling myself, you know what, the firefighters are working hard. Everything is going to be fine. But yeah, I just wanted to add that part. At around 8 is when things just took a turn. It was very windy, and the smoke fog was starting to come into our windows, like just the residue. And at this point, my husband and I told ourselves, let's just pack and be ready in case we get an evacuation notice, because from outside of my window, I could see like the shining light sort of the fires, and I was like, yeah, no, we're not gonna risk this. Like, no, let's just get packed and be ready. We got the evacuation notice and we left home at 9. when we got out, it was so windy that the wind was literally pushing my husband. There's a renovation happening in front of our home, and they have like this gate for the site camp for the workers. That entire gate had fallen over. That's how strong the winds were. There was branches and like really strong branches, huge branches on, the roads. It was just, the roads were just not clear. But anyways, we managed to get out, and on our way out, we saw heavy police presence because they were blocking certain roads, as the road was full of debris where cars could not drive, and also it was closer to the areas where there was smoke. The most traumatizing experience out of this already traumatizing experience was seeing this mother and her kids, and I'm not gonna cry. I think the youngest probably looked like they were like 4 or 5. The oldest looked like they were a teenager, maybe like 14 or 15. They had these backpacks and they were literally running, and that broke my heart. That broke my heart. This is turning out to be much longer than expected. But yesterday was quite traumatizing. We are safe, but I just to think about the people that I saw running breaks my heart. Yesterday was traumatizing. I think another thing that has been heartbreaking about this whole situation is, I guess, seeing people online trying to politicize this. And to be quite honest, yesterday was so devastating for all types of people, whether you're extremely rich, like billionaire rich, or you are struggling. People of different walks of life got affected yesterday. Firefighters had been trying to calm down the fires from the morning. I mean, we saw the smoke fog at 11. And can you imagine, from 11 until when we evacuated at 9 p.m., they were still trying to, contain the fires, and nature was, I don't want to say nature was working against them, but the winds were so strong late at night. And I personally felt like the firefighters were putting their lives at risk to make sure that, people and civilians are okay. Police were also putting their lives at risk to make sure that we're fine, to calm us down, to try and make traffic be as smooth as possible. For me, I just didn't feel like there was any, racial segregation or anything strange like that I read online. As everyone was panicking, obviously, yesterday, but the police were trying to calm us down, trying to make sure that traffic was moving, trying to, get people who were walking to also calm down and to get to, the nearest, safest place. I think it's been really sad reading people's comments on Twitter, on X, people trying to politicize this, people trying to make this about race. And to be quite honest, from what I saw, no one cared about any of that. Just people wanted to either try help each other or make sure that we are all safe, like as either neighbors or neighborhoods, each neighborhood is safe and people are able to evacuate safely. The area that we stay in, or that I stay in, is white and I'm black. I did not experience anyone being strange towards me. I actually think that during the day when I was like, scouting around on my bike trying to see what was going on, there was an old white lady who was like, oh, the fog is so bad and the air quality is so bad. I think we should go home. I think you should also go home because it's not going to be safe for you to inhale all of the smoke fog. And this was an old white lady who was literally just being concerned for me that, and for the both of us, that we should not be inhaling all of the smoke fog. Anyways, guys, I'm sorry that this is very long-winded. I didn't want to do multiple videos, but yeah, I really hope that you guys are praying for everyone in LA. I heard that the fires are still ongoing. People were getting evacuation notices as early as 5:30 this morning. It was really traumatizing, but at least we are alive and we are safe, and I'm praying for everyone else who got affected. Anyways, enjoy your day, guys. This entire experience has been traumatizing, but once again, I'm grateful I'm alive.